This is a presentation on the subject of um, a unity between Heidegger and uh, Wittgenstein on the point of expectation and potential. So, um, first of all, maybe somebody could prove it was simply a mistake. That would be helpful, but it seems to me Heidegger has used Unheimlich to describe Wittgenstein or some accomplishment of Wittgenstein, and that this must be taken as high praise. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's another interpretation that shows that Heidegger is seeing a flaw, or there's something Heidegger doesn't like in Wittgenstein, and that's why he said that in a negative way. So I'd push anyone who knew about that better to say something about why Heidegger called Wittgenstein Unheimlich. But setting that aside, I think in objective nakedness without these outside motivations and proofs, this is the same point. So Wittgenstein is saying, so the A.J. Ayers type of guys, sitting in their rooms, smoking their pipes and so on, came up with this notion of nonsense. So and in connection with what's the name of the guy that wrote How to Do Things with Words? The teacher of John Searle, I forget. Who's also has the name of it. Austin has the name of the famous jurist. This type of language philosophy linked to some theory of when words are being misused or have become nonsense. So then Wittgenstein, I think most of Wittgenstein's output is sort of speaking in the tones of those rooms, as it were. And I don't know, about Christ College, Cambridge or so. So he always says things like, if I have an expectation of something happening, if I have an expectation of hearing a loud boom when the champagne cork comes off, and then it happens, and then it's less than what I expected. Let's say something like, it would be nonsense if I were to say that the bang was louder than my expectation. Apparently with the meaning that his expectation isn't something that actually exists, and you're comparing a fact, reality, to something that doesn't actually exist. That would be nonsense somehow. I don't think that's exactly what Wittgenstein said, but nonetheless, I think this is the kind of somehow the necessary changes being made to put it into my language. That's how it seems to me. And I think it's still somehow in keeping with the objective nakedness of this nonsense, some kind of correct interpretation of how they understand nonsense. I know that there's other ways it can be construed, and I know they could be connected to these, I think Ernst Mach type of, I forget the other guy that A.J. Ayer met with in Austria, I think. These logical positivist notions of all language should link up to things that could be described in experience or something along those lines, where then the further distinction is made between the experience of a tear and the experiment of measuring the water come from the eye or something like that. There's some division is made between the genuine scientific fact and the common sense or daily life fact. Fur versus hair, tear versus some description in fundamental physical terms or in chemical terms or in some other terms, which are measurable, like hemoglobin is measurable. So there's some kind of theme of nonsense that comes out, and then they have their language, their ways of speaking circle around that. And then Wittgenstein is bringing out this problem of expectation, as he calls it. So Heidegger is calling it potential. So I think it's like, so for instance, this claim, I think this Simon Critchley claim in the New York Times as Heidegger is the philosopher of possibility. That's just, of course you could say that, but it's at random, it's stupid. It's just the one thing he mentions. In this sense, the potentiality is the expectation, but then what Heidegger is, so here's where I think it links up, is that Heidegger picks this up and says, there's this difference between the actual potentiality, or the sorga, the sorga, or the being concerned, really being there in the anxiety of the moment, in the as it were, ontic anxiety of the moment rather than this higher anxiety. There's a difference between that existentially and then the general this whole general talk about is language making a mistake when we talk about expectation. So obviously this drawing room way of dealing with it is different from the so-called ontological, phenomenological, existential way of doing it. What I'm saying is, I think Heidegger is talking about the exact same thing with his potential and the genuine moment of potential as Wittgenstein with his analysis of expectation, and how is it when the thing as it happened is different than my expectation. But this is something that's happening every time we have a expectation of something in the and then the question is to observe, like, where is that actually happening? And then ask what we're really naming when we say expectation.